Alright guys, now we're going to talk about some common faults in the back squat. So, biggest thing with back squat, with any type of squatting under load, is always the first thing you're looking at is a loss of spinal mechanics. Alright, what we mean by that is losing midline stability. This is the most important thing to keep an eye on. Alright, so what that typically looks like in a back squat, from the get-go, when people have a weak midline, so their abs aren't turned on, maybe they haven't squeezed their butt as much as they should, but mostly it starts in the abs. When they initiate the movement and you tell them to shoot their butt back and down, they're going to do this and overextend to get there. Alright, so now he's overextended through his lumbar spine, he's in a weak spinal position, and usually when he gets to the bottom of the squat, because he doesn't have a stable midline, he'll surrender into that dog squat, rounding out butt wink kind of fault. So usually these two things come in hand. If you see somebody who has a really stable midline and still has a really slight butt wink at the bottom, that's usually more of an awareness thing. They're just letting their hamstrings turn off a little bit. It's not necessarily a spinal fault. So we still want to avoid it, but it's not nearly so bad as the butt wink that comes from loss of midline stability. Alright? So, the other thing that you'll see is people will tend to knee initiate, alright? When we knee initiate a squat, it makes it a really quad-dominant movement, and we kind of take out the big movers, the hamstrings and the hips, alright? So what that looks like is this. His torso goes straight down, so his butt does not go back and down, and his knees go forward. Alright, that's perfect for like a dip drive, not so perfect for a squat. Okay, so keep an eye on the sequencing in which people start this movement. That's going to be important. The other thing is that weak upper back that we talked about. So just having that collapsed thoracic spine, if he can maintain that flexed thoracic spine throughout the movement, that's really not too bad. However, it does place an increased load on his breathing mechanics. So it is a lot harder to breathe like this. So when we get into higher up stuff, it's going to be pretty taxing. It's probably going to result in some other faults later on down the road. So the other big thing we look at in the squat is knees, alright? So the big fault we're worried about with knees is what we call the valgus fault, which is that pigeon toes, not kneed, knees collapse in, and you'll see it a lot as people press out. They'll default into that not kneed position. It's almost always, we just need to be more aware and be constantly pressing our knees out as hard as we can. So working on that external rotation throughout the entire movement. That's going to be key to keeping a safe, stable knee position. Oh, the cervical spine crap. So a lot of people want to get down to the bottom of their squat and like look up at the ceiling. So we never change the shape of our spine under load. That includes the unloaded portions of our spine. That includes the cervical spine, alright? So there's kind of a disruption of nervous system there when we go into that really overextended cervical spine, and we're not going to get maximal power output. Right? So his gaze is going to remain neutral, so he's looking straight ahead, he's not looking down at the ground, he's not looking up at the sky, right? Just a neutral gaze throughout the movement. I think that's it for faults. Boom!